Hello makers, it's Professor Gallagher, and in this lesson we'll show anyone with a YouTube channel how to set up and configure a display like this one that scrolls the channel's name and shows the current view and subscriber counts. This is a no-solder project that anyone can build, and this is a great thing to have on display if you're a storefront and you have YouTube content that you want others to know about, or really for anyone that has their own YouTube channel. So let's make something awesome. Now, I made this project the week my primary YouTube channel crossed 1 million total views. I know it's not a lot compared to many of the content creators out there, but I'm a university professor that loves reaching as many students as I can, so I thought this was a fun way to celebrate the milestone. Now, I've got 2 YouTube channels. The milestone one is for my SwiftUI course that's at youtube.com/profgallagher, and the one that's hosting this content is much smaller, youtube.com/@buildwithprofg. A subscribe would really help me out. Now, if you're a STEM educator, please feel free to use all of the content in your courses. These are 2 award-winning university courses available for free for you to learn from, for you to use in your own courses. Share with your students. Please use my stuff. But if you can, please let me know so I can document the impact of my own work. Thanks. Now, with that out of the way, let's learn how we can build this bad boy. So the easiest way is to simply order the Adafruit MatrixPortal starter kit from Adafruit. It comes with a 6432 RGB matrix. That's the colorful light-up display that you see. It also has the Adafruit MatrixPortal M4 board. That's the little microcontroller that runs the code that controls the display. It plugs right into our display, and it requires no soldering. All you need is a Phillips head screwdriver to connect it. It has the screws you need. It includes the cable to connect the board to the display. It also has LED diffusion acrylic. It's nice if you want to mute or sort of disperse the light in the display. There are adhesive squares to mount the acrylic to the display, and a 5-volt power supply with a USB-C adapter so you can power the device once everything's set up. Now, there's one more thing you are going to need, a USB-C data cable, make sure it's a data cable and not power only, to connect your board to your computer so that you can configure the board and load up the code and files to get things running. And if you want to attach the board directly to a magnetic surface, that's what I've done with the magnetic whiteboard in my office, Adafruit sells 4 screw-on magnetic feet that are perfect for this build. Now, I also assume you've got a YouTube channel and a Google account attached to the channel. Now, if you don't want to buy the whole kit, there are alternatives. Adafruit actually sells a newer MatrixPortal board. It currently sells for less than $20. It's called the MatrixPortal S3, and it should run all the code I've used for the M4 board. You can also power the board through any USB cable with a standard phone-style USB power supply, so you may have one of those already. Adafruit sells a bunch of these 64x32 matrices in a lot of different sizes, so you can check those out. The Adafruit products are high quality, their support is great. When given the choice, I buy everything from them, but do know that the board uses the Hub 75 standard, so if you have your own Hub 75 board, or you want to try a different vendor, at your own risk of course, the MatrixPortal boards should work with most Hub 75 displays. So assuming you have either a MatrixPortal M4 or a MatrixPortal S3 board, let's put CircuitPython on that board so that you can run the Python code that I'll give you for this project. So open a browser and head to circuitpython.org. Now click the downloads along the top, and you can search for your board. Mine is the MatrixPortal M4. Make sure you choose the right board because the S3 uses a different file that we're going to download. Then click on the board's image, either S3 or M4, and click the purple Download UF2 button. Now, CircuitPython will constantly be upgraded, so you're likely seeing different version numbers than mine, which is great. Don't worry about that. I'm going to save mine to the desktop. Yours is probably saving to your downloads folder, so that's where you can probably find it. And what this file does, it ends in UF2. It's going to allow us to install CircuitPython on our board. Now, we're also going to need to install some libraries on our board. You can consider libraries to be ways that we extend the CircuitPython programming language's vocabulary so that we can run new commands to do things that Python normally doesn't do, like control LED lights and access the internet over Wi-Fi. So to get those libraries, we need to download a large library folder with all the CircuitPython libraries on it. You can find that under the Libraries tab at the top of this page, so click that. And then under Bundles, click the latest purple button. I just downloaded CircuitPython version 9. That matches, so I'm going to click this purple button, and I'm going to save this to the desktop. Again, yours is probably saving into the Downloads folder. Then you can minimize your browser, find the files you downloaded. If they arrived on your computer as .zip files, double-click them to decompress them, and what you should find is one file that ends in .uf2, that'll install CircuitPython, and a folder with a long name that starts with Adafruit CircuitPython Bundle. Now, even though we're going to wipe out this demo code, there is a cool demo that comes on the board when it's shipped. So before we plug it in and copy over our software, let's connect the board to our LED display. Now, your LED display probably came with one of these ribbon cables, and we're not going to use this, so you can set it aside. Now, we're going to use this other cable with the red wires and the black wires. This connects to the LED display board. These 2 horseshoe-shaped metal ends are going to screw onto our board. There are also 2 white-colored plastic ends that connect to the display. We're only going to use one of them, so to attach one of the plastic ends to our display, Orient the board so that you can read the text and numbers right side up, then line up the plastic plug. Now there should be 2 red wires and 2 black wires on a plug. The black wires line up with the GND or ground side of the plug. The red ones will be on the VOC or power end, and you'll see a little plastic tongue on the top of the plug when it's oriented this way. This should slide over the plastic lip on the connection board. You might hear it snap in. Don't force it, but if you have it right, it'll fit snug. That's it. Now you'll probably also see on your board that the screw terminals have this amber transparent tape on them. Just peel those off. Now screw the 2 horseshoe-shaped metal ends of these wires onto your board. Screw the black wire to the terminal that says GND for ground, and screw the red wire to the one labeled 5V for 5-volt power. Now there are 2 matching sockets on either end of the MatrixPortal when your display is oriented this way. You should be able to read the letters and numbers right side up. You're going to plug this connector on your board to this socket in your display. And again, when you flip your board over, you should also be able to read the letters and numbers on the board. Now when you line the board and the display up and push the board in, you'll see a little bit of the board hangs over the side of the display. That's what you want. It'll make it easy to be able to touch the reset button if you need to reset your board and to plug in your USB cable. And now you can plug your USB cable into your board, the other end into your computer, and you should see a new volume show up on your desktop with the name Matrix Boot. But even cooler, you notice that your board lights up with a set of colored squares at the bottom. The board also has an accelerometer, so it can detect movement. So if you tilt your board around, the colored lights move around like the LED equivalent of sand art. Very cool. You can play with that for a bit. But we're about to wipe out this code and put our CircuitPython and YouTube counter on it. But if you ever want this sand art code back, you can search online for information on the Adafruit website on how to do that. Now back on your computer, you should see a volume mounted with a name like Matrix Boot. That's your board. If it says CircuitPy, all in capital letters, we actually want it to say Matrix Boot. So if by chance it shows up as CircuitPy, you can just double tap quickly the reset button on the board, tap tap, and that should mount the board as Matrix Boot. That's what we need in order to install the latest version of CircuitPython on our board. So to do that, just click and drag the file you downloaded that ends in the name .uf2 and release it on top of Matrix Boot. That file will copy over, Matrix Boot will leave your desktop, and in a few seconds, a volume named CircuitPy will mount up. And that means that your board can now run CircuitPython code, and it's ready for our code and our files. Now I have all the files that you need stored on a website named GitHub. GitHub is a place where programmers store projects. Projects on GitHub are called repositories or repos. So let's open a browser and head to our repo. It's at the URL github, github.com/Gallagher. And my name is spelled unusually. It has a U in there. It's GALLAUGHER/YouTube-counter, all lowercase. Press return, you should arrive at this page, and if you scroll below, you'll see some info about the project, a demo video. I might update this from time to time, but the files and code you'll see here have the latest stuff that you need. So to get all of these files onto our computer, we need to download it, find the big green button up in the right-hand corner that says code, click it, and from the drop-down, select download zip. Yours is probably downloading to your download folder. Mine is going to save to the desktop. You can minimize your browser. Safari automatically unzips the file for me, but if you've got another browser that doesn't do that, double-click the zip file to expand it, and you should find a folder named YouTube-counter-main. Let's take a look at what's inside that. Now, the next thing we need to do is to modify the file name settings.toml. Now, this is just a text file, but it needs to have the ending .toml, not .txt. Now, you can open this in any text editing program you have. All Macs, for example, have a program called TextEdit. I have mine in the dock, but if you have a Mac, you probably have TextEdit in your application folder, so find that, open it up, and then open the file named settings.toml. I'll make the text inside here a little bit bigger so that you can see it. Now, I have a jump cut in here because I've made one more change since I originally recorded this lesson. I've added one more line in here named channel_name. Now this is where you can set the name of your YouTube channel that will scroll through your display like this. Now I put the URL for my channel in here, so to do that, just highlight where it says your channel name or URL here. Now that should be between the straight double quotes. You don't want to get rid of the double quotes, keep those there. But between the quotes, put in your channel name or your URL. For me, I'm just going to put in youtube.com/@buildwithprofg. I'm setting this up for my second channel, the smaller maker channel. So sorry for this jump cut, but you can just proceed to watch the rest of this video and follow along. Even though the rest of the lesson won't show channel name in here, you want to keep yours in here, you've done everything right. And we're going to want to change all 4 values that you see in here that are between double quotes. These have to meet your personal requirements. So first, where it says Wi-Fi network here, you want to replace that with the name of your Wi-Fi network, and you want it to be listed exactly as it appears on your phone or computer. The exact same capitalization, punctuation. If it's spelled wrong in any way, your board's not going to be able to find your Wi-Fi network and things aren't going to work. Then replace Wi-Fi password here with your Wi-Fi password. And one quick caveat, if you're a university student or you're running on a corporate campus, there is a chance that your campus network might have tougher network security that makes it difficult for consumer electronics devices to connect to your network. If this applies to you and you follow the steps in this lesson and your board still doesn't work, reach out to whoever administers your network Wi-Fi. But if you're running from home or a storefront or office where you control your Wi-Fi router, your Wi-Fi name and password should work fine. Now next, in order to display the proper information for your YouTube channel, we need to get what's called a YouTube API key. This will allow us to request and get back data on your YouTube channel stats, and we also need to find your YouTube channel's ID. This is different from your channel's name, but if you follow along with me, I'll show you all the steps you need to do. So first we need to request a YouTube API key so that we can get our data. Now API stands for Application Programming Interface. When you hear about APIs, they are in part a way for one program to request data from another. Now we can't get data without a key, that's our permission, so we'll go back to the browser and we'll head to this URL, console.cloud.google.com. Now log in with the email address associated with your YouTube channel. Please don't use my email for technical support. If you have questions, ask Adafruit's Discord. The help there is great. Now there is a chance that you might have to go through some account creation steps. If you do, go through it, but at some point you should see an option to create a new project. For me, I pull down in the upper left box here. This is where I have an old project set up, but it shows all of my projects, including a bunch of projects that I set up for the iPhone for my iOS course. But in the upper right-hand corner, I can select New Project. Now, if it's not immediately clear where you need to click to find New Project, you can ask Google's AI at gemini.google.com. Ask it to give you step-by-step instructions. It should be pretty good at this. So this wants a name for this project. I'm going to call mine YouTube-counter. You can choose whatever name you want, including using this one as well. And Google wants a billing account. Now, it shouldn't charge you at all for this. We're only going to access the API once every 5 minutes. But for some cloud services, Google will charge you. So for example, if you were to save data online, that would be a charge. There's no way around this. You do need to set up a Google account with a credit card. You may very well have one set up if you're running a YouTube channel, but if not, go through the steps to set that up. Remember, if you can't figure out what to do, Gemini can offer you some help. Select your billing account. You shouldn't need an organization, and then you can click on Create. Now your project might show up right away. Curiously, mine does not. It shows an old project. YouTube MatrixPortal was something I was working on previously, despite the closeness of the name. So I'm going to click in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to select YouTube Counter, the project I just created. And then up here in the search bar, you should get in there too, enter YouTube Data API. Press return. The first thing that shows up is YouTube Data API version 3. That's exactly what we want, so select this. And then on this page, click the Enable button. So your screen should look something like this. I can turn off this little Now Viewing box down below. And for us to get a key for this API, which will let us access our data, we need to go to Credentials, which is a link on the left-hand side. Click that, then look across the top. We should see a plus button that says Create Credentials, so click that and select API Key. It chugs away, and then you'll see a box that says API Key Created with your API. This is what our project is going to need. So you can click on the copy icon to the right of the key, and then click Close, and then let's head back to the settings.toml file, and we'll replace the text that says YouTube API Key for your channel with what we just copied. Then Command S or Control S if you're on Windows to save, but keep this file up because we're going to need it in just a bit. And let's head back to the browser, and you're probably seeing a little yield sign that gives you a warning. That's right next to our API key. We'll click on that, and it says this key is unrestricted. So to prevent unauthorized use, we recommend that you set where and for which APIs it can be used. So this is how we can prevent, for example, anyone from stealing our API key and then using it to charge up Google Cloud services. We wouldn't want that. So to put some basic restrictions, we're going to click on Restrict Key under API Restrictions. Then to restrict this key so that it's just used for YouTube access, we can click this pull down that says Select APIs and then hunt down the YouTube Data API version 3. 3, click that, then click OK, then click Save, and we see the yield sign is gone. And now we get a green check mark next to API key 1. Now we get another yield warning up here that says, remember, configure the OAuth consent screen with information about your application. Now there are a lot of acronyms in here, but I believe by performing these next steps that if anyone tries to use your YouTube key, you'd be emailed where you can prevent it or approve it for being used. Basically, it's an additional security measure, so let's click on Configure Consent Screen. Click Get Started. For app name, I'm going to enter YouTube-counter again. For my YouTube support email, I'll just enter the email associated with my channel. Again, please don't email me for technical support. Then click on Next, and we want to click External so that we can use this with our portal device. We're not restricting it to users within our organization. We don't even have an organization set, so this shouldn't be a problem. Click Next, then enter your contact information. Click Next. Agree to the user data policy. Read it if you think you have any concerns. Then click Continue and click Create. And we're at this OAuth overview screen. We don't need this, so I'm going to enter YouTube Data API back in my search box. We'll select the YouTube Data API version 3. And before we had an enable button, but now it says manage, so click this. And now one more thing I want to show is how we can generate a new API if we need one. For example, I'll likely want to do this after I post this lesson, since I've shared my API key with anybody that's watching this lesson. So I can do that by clicking on Credentials in the left, then click on My API Key, and then the top you see where it has a button that says Rotate API Key. This will generate a brand new API key. You shouldn't need to do this, but if you ever need to do this, you can click on Rotate API Key, then copy your new key, and make sure you paste it into settings.toml. If you ever need to get your API key again, you can just click on the Show Key button here. And so now that we have an API key, to finish off the stuff that's in settings.toml, we need to find our channel's ID, and this is how we can do that. So in the browser, go to studio.youtube.com. I've got 2 YouTube channels, so I'm going to set this up for my smaller channel. That's the Build with Prof G channel. Then on the left-hand side, find where it says Customization. You might have to scroll to find it. And if you scroll down, look for Channel URL. And the text says, your unique channel ID is the numbers and letters at the end of the URL. So if I double-click on this part of the URL, the channel ID is highlighted. I'm going to copy with Command-C, Control-C on Windows, head back to settings.toml, and paste this in over your YouTube channel ID. Now make sure you update this with your Wi-Fi ID, your Wi-Fi name, and your password. I'm not going to do that for the world to see. Make sure all of these values are entered between straight quotes. And one other important thing, I've seen users try to edit this in Word and have Word setting on where it changes straight quotes to curly quotes. You need to make sure that your double quotes are straight quotes and not curly quotes. Don't let any kind of autocorrect change these to curly quotes. Curly quotes won't work. Then I'll save this file with Command S on the Mac, Control S on Windows. And we can quit out of our text editor and minimize our browser. And now let's drag the configured settings.toml file over to the CircuitPy volume. You'll probably ask if you want to replace what's there. Click to replace it. There's a bit of a jump cut because I almost forgot to copy the fonts folder over, so click that and drag that into CircuitPy as well. And now to get things working, I'm going to drag code.py over. You can replace that as well. And if you look at your display, there might be a quick flash. Then after about 5 or 10 seconds, it says it's loading. And then to make its first call of the data and parse it, it'll probably take about 30 seconds. First API call often doesn't work, so you might see some green numbers in here that are very far off. But be patient. In about 20 more seconds, you'll see another moment of truth. Hey! You see your channel name scroll across the top. You should see the number of users and the number of views. If you're fortunate enough to have any of these values in the millions, it will say MIL, or if the number is really big, just M. Now, there are a couple more things I wanted to show. First, the MatrixPortal starter kit comes with some diffusion acrylic. And if you're wondering what that looks like, well, it mutes the very bright lights, but it also diffuses them, so you might think this looks a little bit more pleasant. And if you didn't need the kit, but you wanted to buy the acrylic, they sell that at Adafruit. Now, there are also some things to point out about the YouTube API. One is that, in my experience, it seems that the YouTube API only updates data about once a day. So our build calls the API once every 5 minutes, but don't expect to see changes in the display as soon as a new subscriber comes in or a video is watched. Even if you call the API more frequently, it won't push the data out to you any faster. Now, another thing that I've noticed, and it took me a while to figure out what was going on here, is it seems that the data in YouTube Studio doesn't sync perfectly with the data in the API call. The data from the API, again, may be older, so you might be a day behind what you're seeing in YouTube Studio, but even more significantly, I've noticed that the data in YouTube Studio is different from the API data. So apparently the API views data on total views limits this to just the active videos that have been published, but the ones on YouTube Studios takes into account all the videos that are public as well as any that you might have removed. Now this might not be an issue for you, but for me this is actually really big, and that's because I replace all of my course videos about once a year. That's because the technology changes, I update them, and when I do that I retire or unlist any old videos. So at the time that I'm recording this lesson, the total views on YouTube Studio are about 250,000 views larger than what we see in the API. Now I like the bigger number, and in particular I think it reflects more accurately the reach and impact of my channel. So what I've done is, if this applies to you, you can open up the code.py file, and if you scroll down a little bit you'll see two variables in here, sub_adjust and view_adjust, and those values will be added to whatever data is returned for subscribers or views in the API. So if I update my view adjust and then save, I'll see those changes reflected on my display. Just make sure any changes that you make are going to be saved to the code.py file that's on your CircuitPy volume. Now, two other things to point out. If for some reason your Wi-Fi is down and your board doesn't connect to Wi-Fi, you'll see that the view and subs labels and the numbers are going to be green. They're not going to be white. Now, if there's a problem with Wi-Fi, you might see loading show up for a couple of minutes. It might take 10 times or so to connect before you see the green. But if you see green, either Wi-Fi is down or there's a problem in the way that you set up your Wi-Fi configuration in settings.toml. You'll also see that it uses these values in here for default subs and default views. I currently have these set to 300 and 1000. Now, if for some reason we can connect to Wi-Fi, but we can't connect to the YouTube API, it will show these numbers, but it'll show them in gold instead of white. That's just a nice message to you as the owner of the sign that something's up behind the scenes. But I hope you enjoy this build. Congratulations on your channel's success. Display this proudly for the world to see. Please do me a solid and like and subscribe. I want to grow my channel too. Share this with all your buds and come on back to the channel because there's always new ideas to make something awesome.